Morning, everyone. Just waiting for a few more people to join. Coming up to 1:30. I won't wait ages because I know what it's like when you join a webinar on time and then other people don't, and you're sitting there for the first 10 minutes waiting for other people to join, and you think, well, I'm here. Why can't we just start? So we will start quite promptly. To my left here, we have Kieran from Code. The way that we're going to run this is I'm going to do a very, very, very quick kind of corporate overview, but I appreciate that about half of you are existing customers, so I'm not in the business of boring people, so I'm not going to spend ages doing that. I'm just going to quickly run through what Koris is about and what we do for the people that don't know, just for 5 minutes. And then Kieran's going to go into an overview of Code and its software, and then do a demonstration using the actual software and various kind of features. What we'll do is we will do Q&A at the end, and if you want to ask any questions during the course of the webinar, then if you hover over to the right-hand side of the chat, of your screen, then you'll see a panel appear with chat in it. Could you do me a favour? Could someone or a few of you just write in that chat box right now to let me know that you can see it and you can hear me okay and everything? Yep, brilliant. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So if you've got a question, write in that chat box, and then Holly, our wonderful assistant, will collate your questions during the course of the presentations and put them to us at the end. I'm going to mute everyone for the course of the webinar, and then open everyone up at the end. So if you've got a question and you just want to ask it at the end using your normal audio, that's fine. And we'll take it from there. So without further ado, let me start. So as I say, about half of you are customers already, so you know of us. For those that don't, we've been going for around about 12 years. This is our 12th year actually. Organic growth, growing quite steadily. We haven't acquired anyone, haven't been acquired. Before I start, I should do what I said I would do and mute everyone. There we go. So yeah, sorry about that. Growing fairly steadily. We're privately owned. We don't have any debt or venture capital. So benefit for that for you is that we're not going to be forced to do anything that we don't think is right for our customers by a third party, or by someone whose motivations are not the same as ours, frankly. And we have a policy or a methodology called Service First, which I'll just go into a little bit later. In terms of what we do, frankly, I always say that it's everything from the cabling outlet on the wall all the way through the local and wide area network, including Wi-Fi and areas of security, to the data center. And the partners that we use for those tend to be Cisco and HP for the LAN and WAN. Ribbon used to be Sonos. You might have heard of Sonos for our session border controllers, and BT for our wide area networks and internet access. And then it's not on there, but we use Gamma for our SIP. So that's the infrastructure side, and then of course you don't build infrastructure just for the sake of it. So the sort of things that we obviously put on top of that is unified communications equipment in the form of either Mitel or Skype for Business stroke Teams in the future. And then on top of those unified comms platforms, it's the contact centers and the peripheral products around that, one of which we're talking about today, obviously, in terms of Code. Just mention BlueJeans, which is the software that I'm using to run this webinar today. It's our video conferencing partner, along with their hardware partner, which is Dolby. We have an event coming up with them in May, which you'll see promoted, which is in Dolby's Soho office And that will be a full demonstration of the Blue Jeans and Dolby facilities. What I'm using today is just a normal video conference, which you can have up to 250 people on. It's not a specialist piece of webinar or kind of town hall software. It's just a normal video conference. And then, as well as that, there are things like call recording, contact centers. If we're in a Mitel world, then we tend to use the Mitel contact center. If we're in a Microsoft world with Skype for Business, then we will use a contact center from a company called Enchhouse, and they have a roadmap to do the same with Teams as well. And then there are things like mobiles, which we have a partnership with EE for. In terms of us then, so the wrap around those products, because up until this point they are just products that you can buy from anywhere, sort of thousands of companies like Koris all over the country. The difference that we think that we have is the service wrap, which we call Service First. And the reason for calling it Service First is that we have a policy where we sort out customers' problems first, and then if there are any kind of T's and C's to be talked about or outside of SLAs or equipment not covered, then we'll talk about that afterwards. It's important for us to get customers up and running, for us to be useful to them, rather than saying, well, this falls outside of what we're contracted to do. So within that, as individuals, we understand that we need to take accountability and ownership of customers' problems, that we're responsive. And just frankly, that all builds up to having a business relationship where we believe that we're easy to do business with. You'll be pleased to know that we've got some customers. So the obligatory clients screen or two. Some of these Kieran's going to talk about because we do code software with them already. So as promised, that's it from me in terms of giving you a Koris overview. I'm now going to hand over to Kieran, who's going to talk to you about code. Just change screens.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So today, first of all, I'm going to share some ideas on building a user adoption strategy, and then take you into our software to show you how that could fit with your own strategy as you're building it, or if you've built it already, maybe it could augment what you already have in place. So what we're seeing today in the modern enterprise is a much greater diversity, yet a much better connected world than we've ever had before. So new technologies are enabling greater collaboration, regardless of the physical location, either of the platform itself or of the users of that platform. And in many ways, this enables much better communication, but it also adds multiple layers of complexity, which, if they're not managed properly, could have a negative impact upon the productivity of the staff as well as a positive impact. So that's something that needs to be you need to be conscious of. But the industry obviously, excuse me, the industry obviously understands this and this difficulty of managing complex systems. So there's a myriad of management solutions that are available in the market here. This, of course, can bring its own problems. So if you've got multiple sources of data, some organisations are struggling to pull all this together to create a coherent, true and real-time insight into what's happening in their business. So it's vital to deploy the management software that actually suits your own specific needs and challenges. Ideally, your solution has to be reliable, robust and scalable, of course, but probably more importantly, it needs to be simple to use, or as simple as it can be anyway, so that you're cutting through all those levels of complexity to enable evidence-based analysis and decision-making much more quickly and easily. And as this chap here says, what's measured improves. I don't know if anybody recognises this chap. It's not me, it's Peter Drucker.
Okay.
The well-known management consultant and an author.
I also like, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
Absolutely. I think he said that as well.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So despite the increase in digital transformation, many businesses are still struggling to translate strategy into success. So companies know they want to go somewhere, but without a set of milestones along the way, it's difficult to know if they're on track, first of all, and if you haven't got a final destination in mind as well, then it's also it's impossible to know if you've actually arrived at where you wanted to be. So company leaders recognise the need to evolve their operations and the business strategy and the customer experience in order to succeed in a new digital era. But too often they embark upon the journey without a clear destination in mind. And there's a Wipro digital survey, or WIPRO, however you pronounce it. And they found that 35% of digital transformation efforts fail because of the lack of a clearly defined strategy. So there's obviously a big problem there. So assuming you have defined, or your digital strategy has defined what you want to improve and why, and you've also identified some suitable technologies to fulfill that, the next step to that is building your adoption strategy. And the first stage in this regard is getting people to buy into that idea. So every business is different, but there are probably 3 steps in this initial phase. First of all, you have to explain the benefits to get people on board to buy into your idea. Then you need to understand who and align your stakeholders to the idea. And then you have to select the early adopters, and these are going to be the technology champions along the way. So digital adoption is defined as achieving a state in which people use digital tools as they're intended and to their fullest extent. So it's about synchronizing the human factor with the technology factor so that the digital tools fulfill the needs of the user. All pretty straightforward there. So you establish the priorities and ensure that the strategy fits with the needs of all the departments within your business. And if we accept that user adoption is the process by which new users are introduced to, then they become familiar with a new product or service, and then they decide to keep using it. That's a good point. And you have to realise that users only adopt a product if it helps them achieve a particular goal of their own. So irrespective of what your goals are, you need to make sure that the goals of the user are being met as well. And of course, it's not the case that every user in the business will have the same set of goals as well. So just to bear that in mind. And linked to this is the technical planning. So the critical piece in any adoption plan will be to understand how the users are leveraging their existing technologies. And that's where our software can assist with that particular area. Then we move into the crucial phase, the migration process. So typically there are 3 options available here. You've got the big bang option, mass changeover from the old to the new, or you've got the parallel migration where you have 2 platforms running in parallel, allowing users to carry on using the old system that they were used to, whilst gradually moving over to the new platform, but being able to do certain vital tasks on the old system as they need to, and get used to the new that's being made available to them. Or the third one, and arguably the most favoured method these days, is the staged or phased migration. So each company will have their own reasons for which of those options they take, and it's up to those on that. But the key part of any migration path is keeping regular feedback and monitoring. Keep getting feedback at each stage of the migration, and keep monitoring the process of adoption and acceptance. So I've got a survey for you here. If you'd all like to write your answer in the chat box. So the question is, do you already have a formal adoption strategy in place? And if you can respond with either yes, no, or don't know in that, that would be much appreciated. While you're doing that, I'll have a quick drink.
I just realised I need to get my power supply. You carry on. I'll go and do it.
Okay. So, thanks everybody who's answered that question there. There's another one coming up in a bit as well, so look out for that. So during the pre-deployment process, it's important to look at each individual team within your organisation and assess their needs. And then during the rollout stage, and then crucially the post-deployment stage as well, to keep monitoring adoption, keep gathering data to build upon the original adoption strategy. Obviously, that strategy needs to be fluid, and this helps to maintain a focus on continuous improvement. So with digital transformation, it's important to keep in mind that although what people actually do hasn't changed, how they do it has. So employees now typically need to work faster with fewer resources. And you need to ask yourself, how does your goal match your users' needs? Does it meet their WIFM question there? What's in it for me? In terms of real-time collaboration, you could have a minor disruption to some communications applications, and that's fine. For example, email, if that was down for 5 minutes, there'd be no problem at all with that. But if a phone isn't available, or if call quality fails on that call in the middle of a client call or a conference, then just keep in mind what impact that would have on your business. And it's vital to get the deployment and the adoption right first time to minimise that disruption as you're going forward. So ensure the right kind of devices are available to be and that they're being used as well. If you've got policies on bring your own device or choose your own device, what are they? Make sure you keep those in mind at all times as well. And driving the correct behaviours, and the way to do that is through repeat training on the systems as well. So maintaining that training capability is key throughout the process. Then implement ongoing monitoring strategies to track call quality, network bandwidth, service availability. So meeting the needs of your internal clients is absolutely crucial. The idea of build it and they will come, despite what was said in Field of Dreams, this isn't a strategy. Microsoft UC can actually transform the way we work, but only if it's fully embraced and accepted by the users. And it's the role of the change manager to put together an optimal change strategy to enable that, to make sure as well that this significant mind shift in users is actually understood and catered for. And then it's all about delivering on the strategy. The perceived and anticipated business value is only realised through a viable adoption strategy and ongoing monitoring against the strategy's ambitions. Any strategy needs to be conscious of wasted time, or if there's increased employee dissatisfaction, loss of confidence in the technology, that can have a severe impact, or even the team who are delivering it as well. And that's why solutions such as UC Analytics are key to the success of any adoption strategy. So UC Analytics, or UCA, this provides visibility of the activity in your Microsoft UC environment, and whether that's voice, IM, video, or app sharing. We typically receive the data from Microsoft within 60 seconds, so while it's historical data by definition, it's pretty near real time and ideal for delivering activity reports post-event. For true real-time data presentation, we've got UCA Plus, which delivers information via wallboards and dashboards. And this illustrates the number of active calls that you may have, the calls in queue, response group activity, and agent presence, that kind of information. Then we have our UC Recorder, which is a cost-effective client-side record and retrieve voice recorder. And last but not least is Kodi, which is our AI reporting bot. This utilises the IM Messenger to retrieve the information from UC Analytics and the communication activity that you have going on there. So there are three ways that we present this information. Firstly, and primarily, is through the reports. These are typically built and scheduled so that they're sent out to individuals on a daily, weekly, monthly, or annual basis. The key driver when developing the software was to make it user configurable, user definable. So users aren't they're not prescribed a certain number of templates that they're forced to operate within, but they can actually build the templates to suit their own specific requirements and report on exactly what they want to report on more easily. The dashboards, these give a point-in-time view of user activity, call quality stats, and gateway operation. And then we've got the monitors and maps. These illustrate trends over a period of time, so particularly useful for monitoring your user adoption there. Typically, you'd set in a date range of a few weeks or a few months as the system matures and you have more data. And you can map to see how user behavior is changing either positively or negatively, whether more users are utilizing the different elements of the software or actually you're seeing a drop-off in certain areas as well. So at this point, I think it'd be good to take a look at the software itself. Bear with me a second. So what we're seeing on the screen here is our new interface, which is being released over the next few weeks. The demo itself is still utilising the old one, so that's why it'll look slightly different to what you're seeing there. Bear with me a second. Go into the software here. So what we're seeing here is the user adoption map over a period of time. If I just change that, if I take out the March figures, because they can skew things because we're only halfway through. Change that to February, and maybe move this further back as well to October.
It's been quiet then.
User adoption is extremely low at the moment. Okay, maybe I shouldn't mess with those dates, but let me take you through the different elements of this. So we're looking over a 4-month period from December through to the current day, and each of these areas are the service type is broken down and made visible there, so you can see all the activity. So this is the number, the volume of transactions for each of those modalities that you're showing here. And all of these are dynamic as well. So if we're not interested in IM usage, for example, we can remove that, and then we get a visibility of the general increase of activity on voice over that period. But let's say we're more interested in focusing on the video element. So we remove everything and look at that. So we see that there's been a gradual increase uptake of video usage, because the message is coming through from the sales director, for example, that video helps to engage the salesperson with the customer more readily. So we're seeing a positive impact of that, although as we're 2/3 of the way through March, we're seeing a bit of a drop off, so maybe reason for concern there. In terms of the active users, now this could indicate a few issues. Potentially your overcapacity in terms of your licensing. So that's one thing to have good visibility of. So we're only on a 25% usage over a 3-month period there, or 3.5-month period. And then we get a breakdown of how those are actually being used. So 24% of the overall users are using voice, 24% are using IM, only 19% have used video at all over that 4-month period, and so on. So you get a good insight there. Then we look at the number of active users. So if we remove those non-EV users there and take away the total users, then we've got a view of the active users. So we've got a steady number, 15, 16, 15, 16, 17 there. So it's a steady figure that we have, that we're working with. But then if we look at those same users, that same user data, looking at the modality, and let's assume that everybody's happy with using IM and they're taking advantage of that, and we focus again on the video part of this, then we actually find that although we may see an increase in the number of users, the number of transactions on video, it's the number of actual users is on decline there. So we're down to only 3 people who've actually used video over the course of March so far. And we look at average utilization for each of those. Then we get a view that typically we've had those 3 users have used it 4 times and 3 times in February there. And if we look at the voice element, then we're seeing that typically over time we've got 34 users, 34 transactions, voice transactions per user over the period of February there. So good instant insight without going to too much effort, seeing what's going on, and obviously we can go back further in time as well to look at more historical data and see what that tells us over that time period, and you can take that back as far as the data will take you as well. If you want to delve down more into that to understand a bit more about utilization and adoption, then you can go into the reporting itself. So the report builder is designed to define the parameters that you're working within, and so you select the time period that you want to focus in on, whether you want to focus on outbound or inbound calls. If internal calls are important, you can either include or exclude those, or just run a purely internal traffic report as well. And then the different modalities, which of those service types you want to include in the report. So if we select all those to begin with, and then generate a report here, we'll get an overview for the year of all the transactions that have taken place. So interesting perhaps, but not particularly enlightening. So you get the calls, the duration of time that's been spent, and the cost associated there. But if we group that by organization unit or department, then when we break that down, it gives us a bit more of an insight into what's actually happening per department there. So if we look at the sales team, we've got 301 calls or transactions, and we can drill down into that further to have a look at each of those individuals' operation and what they're up to, who's the busiest. In this case, it's me there, so that's good. And then you can drill down further into that to actually look into the calls themselves. But in terms of, if we're looking at user adoption, and we want to focus on that video, so it's all the sales drive is to use more and more video. Then we remove all the other information, and you can drill down into that, and you only get that video information now presented there. So if you want to do more with that and focus more on that user adoption, you can build your own template to show exactly what's been going on over that period of time, and you can break it down into the different service types that you're using there. So what we're doing here is building a template. We're starting with a blank sheet of paper And for each of the fields that I've dragged across from the left to the right here, each of those will represent a column in my new report template. So we want to look at voice. I want to look at video. And we want to look at IM. Choose those, and then give that template a name. So Koris demo. Let me save that. Then we can go back to the report builder, and whereas previously we were using a summary format, we can now go to Koris demo and run that same report that we had. Sorry, a different report using the same set of data, and generate that, and we're seeing 0 information presented there. Yeah, important to select all the right fields. And there we go. So now we've got a breakdown of each of those users, each of those departments by voice, video, and IM, and you can see who's the most active on those. If we drill down back into to sales again, we can see that we've had, if we look at James O'Hare there, he's had 40 voice calls, 40 video, and 40 IM. That's a little suspicious.
Suspiciously consistent.
This isn't it? But yeah, so effectively it's breaking it down between those different modalities that we have. Then if we want to look at individuals, so we focus in on those on a specific individual. Just here. Let me choose the date range that we want to look at. So let's go into the demo system now with its dummy data. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a user map. So over a month in time, we're looking at Andrew Pegham and his activity on the system. So we get to his details there, and we get a list of all the calls or transactions that he's been involved in throughout the period of August. So you can drill down into any of these to get more information on those. Crucially, in terms of user adoption, you get a breakdown of what he's actually using during that period of time as well. So he's making a few audio calls. He's pretty low on the video. Conferencing, he's been involved in a few. He's got quite a lot of IM usage there and some app sharing. So he's utilising all of the different elements, maybe not as strongly as he could be in certain areas, but it's a good start. And what we also see is all the conferences that he's either organised or been involved in, and we can drill down into that to get more information as well. So we see here an overview of a particular conference that he's been involved in, and you see all the attendees and how they joined and the time that they joined, the time they left. All of that information is presented there. we go, just go back to that. We've got here also the call quality element of the call as well. So Shane Melville has had issues in terms of he's had a poor quality call. So we can drill down into that to get a quality map. So one of the big issues that I mentioned earlier, if people lose confidence in the platform that you're rolling out to them, then it can be a bit of a problem actually restoring that confidence again. So having these tools in place to understand when there is poor quality, what could be the core root of that issue as well. It's good to have that visibility. So we can see here on this we get the caller Shane Melville information, and we get to see the connection type. So he first of all he's connecting via Wi-Fi. This could be an issue here. And we also get the captured device. So there's a report that you can run on the system in terms of Microsoft supported headsets, and if that headset doesn't actually appear within that list of supported headsets, that could also be an issue that's creating problems for him. What we also see in this area is whether they're using their video as well. Obviously, if they're connecting via video and they're using Wi-Fi, then that can cause a problem with the bandwidth. And if they're using their speaker as well rather than a certified headset, that can also add issues to it. But obviously, there could be a deeper cause to their poor quality issue, and it may not just be them as a personal individual that's been affected, but actually that it could be a broader issue that's going on. So we've got all this technical quality data, which gives you a mean opinion score for each caller, and it measures the jitter, the latency, the level of packet loss, and it does it in a nice traffic light system as well. So you can focus in on the red highlighted numbers here, or the amber ones as well, to see what that problem was. And from here, really, this is the starting point of any diagnosis of any issue that you've got, either on your network or with particular gateways within the network. How are we doing for time?
Good. It's just coming up to 10:10, so probably another 5 minutes.
Okay.
We'll go for questions if there's any. So just to finish off in terms of the demo, just to give you an overview of the type of dashboards that you can see. So in terms of general usage, utilization, and general activity, you get this is typically a snapshot in time of what's actually happening. So typically it will be the day that you're working on when you log into the system, but you can go back and look at historical data as we're doing here. All of these are dynamic reports as well, so if you're wanting to understand if people are using the facilities that you've given them to make outbound calls, you can focus in on that, and you can drill down into that and get a report on all of that activity during that particular hour and time. Similarly, dynamic, you've got answer times, so very important for in terms of meeting SLAs that you may have, answering calls, making sure you're not missing too many. We can look at just the missed calls that we've got here, and we see that 5 people have waited for over 60 seconds before abandoning the call. Drill down into that and take a proactive approach and actually call these people back and see if they've got an issue that you need to manage. Good heat maps as well, so making sure that people are phoning places that are within their business operation, and then a list of the call details that
that are all the calls that are taking place at that particular time. So as you can probably guess, there's probably see from what we're looking at, there's an awful lot to the system that it can give you. If I go back to the presentation now. I've got another survey question for you. In terms of your digital transformation strategy, how important is the user adoption part of that? So by that I mean whether if you're leaving it up to the users as to how they use any new system, any new platform that you roll out for them. If you're happy for a salesperson to carry on using his mobile phone and not be utilising the different parts of Microsoft UC that you might want him to, then obviously a user adoption strategy is not that important to you. But if you could either choose very important, quite important, or not important for how important is user adoption within any digital transformation strategy that you have going on, that would be appreciated in the chat box again. So as I said, with the software, there's quite a lot that you can do with it. There's the focus on user adoption and the call quality to support that. But you've also got the capacity planning as well, so understanding your SIP trunk usage and the capacity of those, whether you're under or over capacity. The employee productivity, this is key, and it's linked in with the user adoption as well. So giving all the tools to a user doesn't ensure that they're particularly productive with them. So it's important to measure those, and also have a verifiable set of data against the KPIs that each user may have. There's a good old-fashioned stuff of call costs and applying a call to that. You can import as many carrier tariffs into the system as you want to. And then we've got the real-time wallboards. And in terms of training and monitoring and dispute resolution, then we've got the call recording element for that. In terms of the platforms that we support, the Microsoft UC platforms, then obviously we do Skype for Business, including Skype for Business 2019. Office 365, we support that, and of course any webinar about Microsoft wouldn't be fulfilled wouldn't be complete without the Teams mention. So Teams is something that's absolutely on our roadmap, of course. The API for Teams has been released by Microsoft next week, so that's something our developers will be working on straight away. So whether your deployment is on premise, whether it's in the cloud or whether it's hosted by your partner, we can manage that. We've got cloud and on-premise type deployments and license models, so we can work with however your system is set up. In terms of code and why work with code, it's very much about solution-based delivery. So a lot of our of competitive solutions out there, they do it in a modular basis. So you have to buy each element in turn, in terms of AD integration or import and export of data. Each of those elements can be separate within competitive solutions, but we provide it all as a single solution. We've got flexible license models, as I mentioned, and the very sort of open and transparent structure of our licensing model means that it's a low total cost of ownership. It includes the support, any upgrades that are going on, all of those are included within the price, so it's easy to see exactly what the upfront cost will be. Then we've got the enhanced functionality. We're building in these elements from Microsoft in terms of the user adoption and the quality maps. All of that is included as standard. And it's all modern architecture as well. Code is actually only 5 years old, and it's built on the back of Microsoft UC platforms as well. This is where our pedigree lies, and it's been in over the last 5 years. So we don't have that legacy of bringing all those old PBX styles and data sets with us. So the structure is very simple, and it means that any upgrades are easy to do, and support and administration is also much more simplified. Organisation agility, we're a small organisation, we've got a very flat structure, and we focus much more on delivery to the customer than internal process because of that. So we tend to deliver any requirements that the customers may have much more quickly and timely. And we've got a clear focus as well. A lot of competitive solutions are part of a larger conglomerate or a larger corporate organisation where they may have thousands of different products. We've only got our single product, and therefore a very clear focus on that. Here is that obligatory slide that Paul mentioned. There's a few good customers in there that are Koris customers. We've got in the centre there, we've got RPC, which is a manufacturing client, and we've got the Royal College of Nursing for educational sector there. Tony G is engineering. DAC Beechcroft is legal. Yeah. And Greenwood Academies Trust there on the left in the middle is that's an educational academy. They've got 27 different schools. So lots of different types of organisations. The reason for showing this really is to show that it's not really vertical specific. It's not size specific either. Horseware Island, for example, is one of the leading manufacturers of horse blankets in the world, and they utilise our system. But as you may imagine, they're not the largest organisation in the world. Right up to people like Credit Suisse, which have tens of thousands of users. That's it from me, really. If you want any more information, then go to codesoftware.net, or a better idea is to go to your Koris account manager or email marketing@koris.co.uk for more information.
Great. Do you want to stop sharing? And we'll just go to see if we haven't got any questions come through on the chat box, but what I'm going to do now is just unmute everyone. So if you've got a question, to me, yours. There you go. That way. If you've got a question, you might need to unmute yourself locally if you've muted your local microphone, but ask away now, or put it in the chat window if you prefer. Okay.
Sorry, Steve Lampard here.
Hi, Steve.
Hiya. Do you actually support, at the moment we're Skype for Business. Good morning. Skype for Business on-prem. We're just looking to enable voice on that, but then obviously we will be over time migrating to Skype Online and Teams. Would it support, we're a hybrid environment at the moment, will it support that?
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter what sort of environment you have, including a hybrid environment, and all of the licenses are interchangeable as well, so you don't have to double up if somebody's using if somebody has a Skype for Business license in each.
Because we may have people, on-prem for enterprise voice, but with Teams for some collaboration functions for a period.
Yeah, absolutely. So we license by user, so you
Right.
wouldn't, yeah, so you wouldn't have to double up in that situation. But yeah, absolutely, supporting a hybrid environment is part of what we do.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, so thanks for attending. I hope it was useful. What we'll do is we'll send out this recording for people to look at afterwards or to disseminate amongst your teams. And if there's no more questions, going once, going twice, done. We'll close this down and look forward to seeing you soon. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much, guys.